It's truly mind-boggling, that thrust, that 1.8 million pounds of thrust. As we get down to 1 minute, we're going to lay out, we're going to listen to launch control communicating with Doug and Bob.
1 minute.
Dragon isn't counting much. FTS is armed for launch.
You've heard it all there. They are armed for launch. The fueling is done. Now 45 seconds comes
Dragon,
to go.
SpaceX, go for launch.
That is the launch director. They are ready to go. We are getting very close to T-minus 30 seconds. And you will hear a number of instructions.
30 seconds.
A number of instructions to them once we take off. Space Launch Live. First time in nearly a decade. American astronauts on an American spacecraft
Stage 1 tanks
launching
pressing
from
for flight.
American
T-minus
soil.
15 seconds.
And here comes the countdown now.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon and NASA SpaceX Godspeed Spotted Dog.
There you go. Come on.
Stage 1 report is nominal.
Yes. $600 miles an hour, 700,
And 1D, throttle down.
800.
The throttle down call is because they are getting ready to the most aerodynamic stressful part of this flight. So they take the
900.
power down just slightly.
Wow, 1,000 miles an hour.
1,000 kilometers per hour mark. That's 621 miles per hour.
So the vehicle is supersonic.
And 1D, throttle up.
Wow.
Throttling up. There's Max Q. The max
1,400 miles an hour.
the most
1,500.
stress on the rocket. As I look up, and we can still see the orange glow. And I tell you what, it took 5 seconds for the vibration and sound from that liftoff to affect us here. You can still see it just screaming almost straight up, even though they're pointing a little bit downrange now.
Starting back engine chill.
Approaching rapidly 3,000 kilometers per hour. That is 1,864 miles.
Oh, I guess that's
per hour.
kilometers. I thought that was miles per hour. That's what I get for watching through my phone.
Coming out of the back expanding.
Still, that's amazing.
because there's not as much atmospheric pressure on it, so that's why it stands out like that. And we are getting, that first stage engine's going to fire for about another 20 seconds, 23 seconds.
And Christian, that is really a step that we want to pay attention to, that separation of the first stage that will then be turned back to Earth.
Yeah, we're going to get very busy here in about
I hope my
5
grandkids
seconds.
are
You're gonna
watching.
see Nico, the main engine cut off, and then you're going to see the separation. And stand by for that.
Nico.
Falcon stage separation confirmed.
There it goes.
So the main shut down, and you see separation there too. That is
back
the first
ignition.
stage falling away.
See also
Now
down
the second
before
stage is going to
stabilize,
fire.
leaving stage 2. They're now approaching 7,000 kilometers per hour, which is 4,049 miles per hour.
Wow.
Now the thing to watch now, Chris, is that first stage. It's going to be
nominal.
That means that's good news. That's the rocket that's still on the Dragon. It's doing its job, moving these guys into an orbit that'll put about 200 kilometers below the space station.
7,000
You,
kilometers.
That second photo, it's great to see inside. There's the triple screen of the two astronauts. The Dragon and the Falcon are basically, actually it's the second stage now, are on autonomous power. But Chris, we really want to pay attention to that first stage. As Davenport says, it's a secondary mission, but it sure is cool to watch it land on that ship out in the Atlantic.
quickly approaching 8,000 kilometers per hour, which is nearly 5,000 miles per hour. They are really moving. Bob and Doug,
5,000 miles an hour.
very, very cool, calm and collected.
Couldn't imagine.
Amazing to get that live shot of what they're experiencing. I want to bring in Mike Massimino. Mike, take us through what Bob and Doug are going through.
Stage 2 propulsion is still nominal.
Yeah, they are so well trained for this, Chris. They've had countless simulations, played everything, every emergency possible. And they're just looking and looking and hoping and praying that everything's going well. It looks like it is. I know that first stage, we're going to be excited to see that, but the world that Bob and Doug are living in is just making sure that that engine is continuing to burn, that they're still on the right trajectory. All the systems are looking good, and it looks like they are. As we see them just watching, that's probably a good sign. That means all the automatic sequences are working well. We don't hear too much chatter coming from the control center, from MCC. That's a good thing too.
Almost to 10,000.
And then when you hear that word nominal,
go ahead, Mike, I'm sorry.
when you hear that word nominal coming, no, it's fine. When you hear that word nominal, that's always good. That's the NASA jargon for everything is A-OK. We're looking good, just like we expect. So we want to keep hearing that for a few more minutes and get those engines cut and get them into space safely.
And there's that 10,000 kilometers per hour threshold, which is just over 6,200 miles per hour. And the picture on the right, I have to keep reminding myself that that's a live shot. It looks like the greatest science fiction movie ever produced. It's just so fantastic that the launch was a go today and has been a success so far. Really, really amazing stuff. David Curley, what's the feeling like on the ground? Are you seeing the first stage rocket at all coming back?
Not yet. You can see it. It's got about another 3 minutes until it'll do its entry burn, and there are 9 Merlin rocket engines on that.
Terminal trajectory.
They say everything is normal with their trajectory, meaning they're heading onto the right path to try and get on the effort to catch up to the space station. So you're seeing in the first stage, you can see those grid fins that you mentioned, Chris Jacobs, that will help guide it. But at 8:45, so plus 8:45, coming up in about 2 minutes, you'll see 3 of those 9 engines fire to slow it down. The first stage doesn't have any of that protection when it comes back into the atmosphere. So the way they overcome that is by firing the engines and slowing it down enough that when it re-enters the atmosphere, it won't burn up. And it'll be a 34-second burn of that entry stage of those 3 engines to bring us in. And seeing some of these pictures of Doug and Bob in the capsule is just remarkable. We haven't seen a lot of American astronauts live.
Is still good.
And just to clarify, that picture on the left is the Stage 2 rocket propelling the Crew Dragon capsule. The picture on the right is actually the Stage 1 Falcon 9 rocket returning to Earth. So those are actually moving in opposite directions as we pass the 15,000 kilometers per hour mark, which is approaching 9,400 miles per hour.
You know, Chris, SpaceX would love to get this booster back. And as we mentioned earlier, they learn a lot when they get these rockets back and take a look at them. But it is secondary. That's the picture on your left. The second stage, as Massimino said, that's what you want to burn. You want that burn to go exactly as it should on the right trajectory. This was an instantaneous launch. They had to go at the right time. There's your start of your entry burn on the right. It's a little bit early, but they're coming.
Falcon 9 rocket is
so this is the burn that's, yeah, this slows it down. This is going for about 35 seconds, as I mentioned, just to slow it down. And if you watch those grid fins, you can start to see them kind of move, and that's what keeps this, as we heard earlier in one of the pieces, you know, landing a pencil, that's what keeps it north and south or up and down as it's coming down back into land.
And
it's landing on a drone
we
ship
saw
in the
those
Atlantic.
start to move. Nearly 22,000
that burn is over.
kilometers
The
per
next
hour.
thing we're going to see,
Terminal guidance.
we will see that at 9:27
Vector all set.
plus, everything's good, they say. Those are the reports from Mission Control. So coming up in about a minute, we'll see the final burn. And as Davenport has told us before, you don't always get to see the landing because you got a camera that's getting shaken, and this is a rocket actually that's coming back. There, you lost the picture. That's kind of what happens.
And there's the 25,000 kilometers per hour, which is 15,534 miles per hour. So again, continuing to accelerate as they make their way to orbit.
And vector all sped. And vector shut down.
There's the second stage engine cutoff right there. And that will be
That's
jettisoned
good news,
soon
Chris.
as well.
That means that they've got their.
SpaceX nominal orbital insertion.
There they go.
Launch escape system is disarmed.
That's great news. And that's even better news. So they're in the orbit they're supposed to be in. They have just de-armed the escape system. They are where they're supposed to be at the right time. And in a couple of minutes, we'll see separation of the Dragon and loss of that second stage. That's really good news. And Chris, you asked a little bit about the atmosphere down here. There were some people here, even though they didn't open the gates, who were applauding as that Falcon 9 took off and really rattled our chest.
And it looks like Falcon 9 has returned successfully to that drone ship. Just amazing, amazing technology that quickly, in under 10 minutes, that Falcon 9 rocket has propelled Doug and Bob into orbit and has returned safely to its drone trip.
That is awesome.
Hats off to SpaceX for developing that technology. Truly incredible.
Brilliant.
Now, Mike Massimino, if you'd like to
Sorry, I
weigh in
wasn't
at
paying attention.
If you'd like to weigh in at this stage, Mike Massimino, Bob and Doug now, you can see they're experiencing weightlessness. They're breaking out their mementos that they brought from home. What are they experiencing right now?
Utter joy is what it is, and I'm very happy for them. This is great coverage. Those cameras we have, that's another advancement. We didn't have those cameras in the shuttle program. We had we used to call it a lipstick camera. One camera we mount on the back of one of the flight engineers, and that's all you had. Now we've got them all over the vehicle, inside the cabin, outside, on the rocket. It's just a wonderful experience we all can share in. But they are feeling utter joy. They are euphoric. They are sublime. They are really happy that they got through that launch system, through that launch sequence. They're really happy to be in orbit and to bring the United States back. Both of these guys are military officers. Bob from the Air Force, Doug a Marine. They are so happy to have done this from American soil again. It's a great day, not just for the United States, but for the whole world, to have the capability to launch from the U.S. again with people inside. And they are just so proud and so grateful that so many people made this possible for them to be a part of. And so they're happy that they're there, and they're proud of being on the team, and they're very, very grateful for what we've done today. And all of us can be proud of what we accomplished.
Mike, just 11 and a half minutes into their 19-hour journey, so a lot longer to go before they reach the ISS. What do they do now for the next 18 hours and 50 minutes?
Yeah, they get ready. They have to transfer to an orbital stage. We used to call it post-insertion. I'm sure they still call it the same thing. There's usually no rest for their weary. There's plenty of things to do. They're going to have to set up their cockpit so they can get ready to do their rendezvous. They're probably going to get some rest coming up here, I would think, before they do rendezvous, the final rendezvous and docking. They'll probably maybe get something in, see how they're feeling. That's the other thing. It's been a while since either of these guys have been in space. It's been almost 9 years, and Bob maybe just a little bit longer than that. I was a Capcom for his last flight. So they've got to get their space legs back, and sometimes you don't feel as well as you'd like when you're first unstrapped because your body's getting used to it. Your vestibular system is not working any longer. But I think these guys will probably be just fine. So hopefully they're feeling well. They'll get what they can done. Continue with the checklist. Get right into it right away. And there's probably not much rest. If it's anything like it was at the shuttle, I'm sure it is. They still have to go right into the orbital phase as soon as they can.
Now, Mike, we just heard from Launch Control that they confirmed Dragon separation, meaning that stage 2 has now been jettisoned from the capsule. So these guys are truly autonomous now in the capsule. It's a self-propelling capsule, self-driving capsule, but these guys can also control it. They're going to be doing that along the way to the International Space Station, correct?
Proud of you guys and the rest of the team.
Yeah, especially for this flight.
Thank you so much for what you've done for us today, putting America back into low Earth orbit on the Florida coast.
Copy out. Good luck. Godspeed.
13 minutes.
We just heard Doug and Bob communicating with Launch Control, giving them their thanks. Launch Control, of course, responding.
Dragon SpaceX to confirm nominal equal activation and service section Draco checkouts. nose cone deployed in progress.
Now, they mentioned that
Chris,
the
I can tell you
nose
about
cone
this.
deployed there is in progress. The nose cone will actually open up, and that will help them with navigation on their way to the ISS. I'd like to bring in Adam Savage. I know he is chomping at the bit to get in on this. He is our resident space nut on our team. Adam, please weigh in with your thoughts. I know you've got to be excited about this.
This, I think, such an amazing thing to witness. I mean, the engineering achievement, the cooperation between SpaceX and NASA, Bob and Doug. I mean, the euphoria they're feeling and that Mission Control is feeling, it's rubbing off because I'm feeling it too. It is incredible. Every single nut and bolt on that spacecraft and these rockets was sweated over by a human being, making sure that it was right and correct. And the fact that those guys are now in orbit is a testament to the dedication of all those people. It's really thrilling.
Adam, you look like you're ready to jump on a space shuttle and get right after those guys. I love the costume change. That's amazing. I also
Send
want
me
to
in, Coach. I'm ready to go.
You are ready, man. You are no longer on the bench. You are on the starting lineup. I want to bring in Mark Roper, who I'm sure wants to weigh in on this too. Mark, your experience as a NASA engineer gives you unique perspective on this. Please tell us your thoughts.
I mean, I feel like I've had chills for like a solid 2 hours. I know what it takes. Like Adam said, every nut and bolt. There's every little detail of that. It's just, it comes together as an amazing engineering feat. But it's also just like a symbol, as far as I'm concerned, for not just the nation, but the world, of just like hope and progress. Like at a time where the world could use symbols of amazing progress and hope. So, like, congratulations to NASA and to SpaceX. Congratulations to those astronauts, but also congratulations to humanity. Like, we will be a spacefaring nation, and this was an important step.
Very well said, Mark. And I understand that Bob and Doug have opened their visors inside the Crew Dragon capsule. I believe that gives them a view. Mike Massimino, I want to bring you in because you're the only one who knows firsthand what they must be experiencing. What are they looking out on right now?
The thing you want to do as soon as you get to orbit is unstrap and take a look. If you need to unstrap or look through the window, you want to take a look and look back at our beautiful planet. It is extraordinary. We can see pictures, we can see some high fidelity video, but there's nothing like being there and actually seeing it. And when I looked at our planet from space, what I thought to myself was, this must be what heaven looks like. It is an absolute paradise. And you can look and see the blackness of space in the other direction. We've checked out the neighborhood. You realize we only have this one option. It's very fragile. You see that thin atmosphere. If you think of the Earth as an onion, the top layer, the top skinny layer of the onion is the size relationship of the atmosphere of our planet to our planet. You see that. You can see that in these images. And you realize how lucky we are to be here. And it changed my view of how I feel about our home. It's a home we all share, and it is an absolute paradise. So that's what they're looking at.
And we're getting a really nice picture of that on our feed right now, I presume, from where Bob and Doug are up on the Crew Dragon capsule. David Curley, please weigh in. Give us a sense of what it's like down there at Cape Canaveral. I mean, of course, relief, major joy. What's the feeling like right now?
Yeah, it is all those things and more, Chris. I mean, with the anticipation Wednesday and then the scrub and then the forecast being, oh, we're probably going to have to go another day. As we got closer and closer to countdown, you could sense the anticipation and just the excitement of a rocket launch. And I have to tell you, everything's dissipated now, but watching that rocket take off, and as I mentioned a little earlier, there's a delay. The speed of sound is fast, but it's not that fast, and it took a while for the sound to hit us. And then the vibration, that rocket fuel and oxygen, when it's burning, it's just, you can feel it. It's just trying to rip the air apart. It was fantastic to see these guys get to the place they wanted to be at the right time. They've done all that. Now, it's a 19-hour journey to the space station, and Massimino talked about it a little bit. They have specific things they are doing, because this is a test mission. They're going to make sure it's a habitable environment inside the capsule of Dragon. They're going to try and eat, drink, and as somebody at SpaceX said earlier, do whatever kind of bio work they have to do, and then they want to sleep.
NASA wants them to sleep. Everybody wants them to sleep. See if you can sleep inside this capsule. We had not seen something before. If you watch some of those pictures when we were seeing in the capsule, we actually saw those sleek spacesuits, which are pressure suits, blown up with air. They're a little capsule within a capsule, which was kind of interesting. And one other thing as you watch this mission, I noticed something that I hadn't seen before. You see those 3 screens. There's a little rest where they put their fingers. I saw Doug Hurley do this a little time. Another detailed design from SpaceX as these gentlemen get ready to catch up and dock with the space station. Very important. As Chris Davenport said, there are milestones on this mission that must be met by SpaceX in order to get this spacecraft certified. Chris?
Those little creature comforts, they don't miss anything at SpaceX. Very, very cool, very great information, David. I appreciate that. It's hard to believe that this went off so well. I'm so happy, so excited. I want to bring in Adam Savage once again. Adam, now you're wearing your replica orange suit that Mike Massimino wore on his way to the space shuttle, and I understand your suit is so accurate, you even replicated what was in Mike's pockets. Is that true?
Not only what was in Mike's pockets, but I was texting him on a daily basis as I was finishing this suit, asking, where did the flares go and what kind of Sony micro recorder was in there? And he was sending me links and sending me some of his handwritten lists from his launch as to where the things were distributed.
Right, well, Mike, weigh in on that. Tell me about, first of all, those extra large gloves that we just saw Adam modeling that you actually wore with your suit in space. What are those all about?
Yeah, so and that's great, man. I've been friends for a long time, and it's been a joy for me to participate in some way in some of his projects. And you reminded me the voice recorder. I had that so I could record my thoughts for my family. And we had a little micro recorder. And I just sent what I was thinking, what I was doing. It was kind of hard to take notes. You could, but not extensive ones. So we had little micro recorders to record our thoughts. That was about. And the flares and all the little detail that Adam put into that suit. I remember I got out my flight notebook to give him all that info. And gloves are very important. You need a good fit because you have to work in them. And when you're in the suit he's wearing is a launch suit, launch and entry suit. You need to be able to move around and do things with your hands inside of the spaceship, as opposed to the big white suit we wear for spacewalking. There, even the glove fit was even more critical because you're in a pressurized glove fighting against that pressure, so you needed a good glove fit. So things like that. You mentioned the little fingertip rests that they have on the touch screens. Your hands are always working, always moving, and when you have inside of gloves, you need a good fit in order to get the job done.
And then, of course, add into that
weightlessness. On opening and forward will get Draco checkouts. We're just waiting for TCS to stabilize.
We're hearing launch control continuing to communicate with Bob and Doug in the Crew Dragon capsule.
Opening and Draco checkouts.
Amazing, amazing pictures being sent back to us from up above where they are on their way to the International Space Station. And, you get a sense there of just how large Earth is because they're moving at roughly 17,000 miles an hour while these pictures are being shot. Incredible stuff. And, Adam, I actually heard you had a lot to say to Mike about those gloves you were wearing. What's it like actually having that suit on, including those gloves?
Well, when I was doing the research on these gloves, I'm also friends with Chris Hadfield, and I asked him about them, and he said, well, there's over a dozen different sizes, and they take astronauts. Apparently, Chris has the size that's absolutely in the middle, the super average size, and he said that Mike Massimino's hands were the casting used for the largest space gloves, and I thought, oh, this is great. And I was interviewing Mike on stage here in San Francisco, and I mentioned that because I thought he'd have something to say about it, and Mike was like, really? My hands are the largest ones in NASA? I didn't know that.
I believe Adam is referring to Chris Cassidy, who is the commander of the International Space Station, someone who I actually spoke to on the phone last week. Very heady stuff there. Adam, Mike, thank you guys both so much. Please continue to stand by. David Curley, I believe you have some information for us. What do you got?
I got to tell you, NASA is ecstatic. We just heard from the administrator who says, he's needless to say, I wanted to say over the moon, not quite over the moon, even though he'd like to get astronauts to the moon. He said, though, that he is breathing a huge sigh of relief. But he's not going to really celebrate until Doug and Bob are back on the planet. And I have to tell you, we showed the pictures earlier of the astronauts coming out in their suits and doing that little virtual hug with their children. And Elon Musk was asked about, how important is a manned mission versus all the cargo stuff you have done. And he said he even talked to those two boys. Bacon has a 6-year-old, Hurley has a 10-year-old. And Elon was asked, what did you say to them? And he said, we're doing our best to make sure they come home safely. And SpaceX, this mission had a lot more weight on it. The president of SpaceX said that even in the work orders that the engineers were doing in the factories they were building Crew Dragon and the Falcon 9 rocket, they had Doug and Bob's pictures on the work orders, so they knew what they were doing here, who they were trying to protect. So this has been a great start. Now we see if the docking goes off without any hitch in about 18 and a half hours from now. They will be flying this capsule a couple of times. In free flight now, Doug Hurley will take control, because this isn't autonomous. It's like a Tesla. You could go anywhere you want to. He'll fly then, and then he'll fly a little bit before they dock to make sure they can take over in case the computers fail. Chris?
Thank you very much, David Hurley. You know what? Remember this day, because you're going to remember exactly where you were when SpaceX launched their Crew Dragon into space.
We are waiting on
May 30th,
cabin environments to stabilize before Steve docking.
So,
right now we're just trying.
what is the next milestone for Elon Musk and his SpaceX team? We're going to find out. Plus, an exclusive send-off featuring Katy Perry's new song. That's all. We come back with more Space Launch Live.
Well, I'm shutting her down. That was amazing.
Launch